Hello, hello. Welcome to the first En Perpetua podcast. As you know, our tagline here is that passion is a beacon in the night. It goes for just about any craft, including, in our case, storytelling. Now, this is a rough thing. First attempt recording this while outside. Usually not good for acoustics, but we're still recording it nonetheless. In this particular case, we're going to be discussing the state of En Perpetua as it's coming up. Now, literally as soon as I do this, somebody starts riding a motorcycle past me. Hello, motorcycle person. Bye, motorcycle person. Anyway, I'd like to get back to posting Cosmic Weavers on a weekly basis. I definitely like the new cast that I have planned for the quote-unquote Season 2, which is going to be Anissa, Katsi, and Candina. I really do think that that's a freaking great assembly as far as personalities go. As far as the actual state of En Perpetua, I know how I want to do the Great Mind arc. I'm still trying to get all the connective tissue back together, because I had an exact way I wanted to get it done. It seems like every single time I'm trying to remember the exact ways we get from point A to point B to point C, something comes up that delays me and throws off my rhythm. So it's getting hard to get back to the connective tissue. I feel I've done a good job so far, and I do think revisiting the stories while reposting and taking down the AI is helping. But as far as talking about En Perpetua in general goes, the Ziegfried Saga is pretty close to my heart because it's the first one I started posting publicly. So I'm hoping to wrap that up. It's supposed to be, if you include the Great Mind arc, there's only 3 story arcs left before the end of the series. At that point in time, I can work on getting it all edited, getting it all sent out to Amazon, and getting it all published and ready to go. Another thing that reposting the older stories is helping me do is figure out how I want to edit and modify them for moving forward. But overall, the Ziegfried Saga is still well on point, and I want to discuss the very themes of the Ziegfried Saga right now, which is that the whole point of the story is not only supposed to be about the effect our actions have on others, even when we ourselves don't recognize it, but the conceptual idea of change, redemption, and facing and overcoming one's past. It's not whether it's good or bad, or even whether it's your fault or not. We all have aspects of our past that don't bring out the best qualities in us, but that when we face them and overcome them, we become better people for them. And the weird part is, yes, even the going from planet to planet thing is a part of that, because it's only by going outside of your usual rhythm, outside of your usual patterns, that you can go on adventures that cause you to rethink your life. By meeting new people you never would have met if you had stayed still in your life. So that's the whole angle from that. And Anissa is supposed to be the main focus character, which I'm gonna try and adjust a little when I try and get it ready for publishing. But it's also so hard, because where I started the story for the Ziegfried Saga, and it's why I made Scorpion's Dawn, that's on temporary hiatus, but I will return to it. Anissa's initial arc of becoming a hero was completed. That's not in question. She has, in fact, become a hero, and that is who she is as a person. She is Zora, the Warrior of the Dawn, to most people. But there's so many more layers to her history and her life than that. And so what she's trying to do is what most people do. When you have a larger task that you're focused on, a big, important thing, it's easier to block out your own history, easier to block out the things that you've gone through before. So while she has regrets and she has things that haunt her, she's doing her best to stay focused on the big task in front of her. That's why during the Noble Pines arc, I had to not just personify those conflicts, but also really kind of drive home the fact that this is stuff she's actively repressing. It's things she actively hates about herself and thinks about often. That's why Sasori ever even manifested in the first place, was because it is always on her mind, whether she's focused on something else or not. And the Great Mind arc is also going to be addressing Sasori more. That idea of that animalistic instinct, that survival instinct that's buried deep inside her personality from what she went through as a kid. Things she actively doesn't think about, actively affecting how she interacts with people around her. and it's going to be fun dealing with that. In that same way, it's a very terrible segue, I know, but that's a little bit of how I feel, in a sense, when it comes to friggin' how people deal with Star Wars. I know it's a weird transition here, but hear me out. I honestly feel that there are a lot of people who were not initially identifying themselves as Star Wars fans. They knew it was a cultural touchstone, they kind of liked it, but it wasn't really their thing. That when the sequel trilogy came out, the Disney trilogy as most people call it, they got very attached to it because they felt like they had been the ones left out all this time, that they knew so much, that they were so great, all these things that just wasn't really a part of their lives, they just kind of were there. And now Star Wars is here, and it feels more like what they want. There's a Bishonen pretty boy with a red, cool, cross-hilted laser sword. And there's this girl, and she's powerful. And they thought they could finally have a safe place within the Star Wars fandom. Then the actual directors of Star Wars fricked it up for them. And that eventually led to this chain reaction of people who did not understand Star Wars coming in as fresh fans and believing all of the frickin' uneducated hype and rumors about what it means to be a Star Wars fan. The bullcrap about Jar Jar. Yes, everybody's made jokes about Jar Jar and how he shouldn't be there, etc., etc. But I have never seen any actual evidence that we tried to drive the frickin' Jar Jar actor to suicide. In fact, the Darth Jar Jar meme is, in my opinion, let this be the ADHD streaming. I am a huge fan of the Darth Jar Jar theory, but only because I know as soon as episode 1 came out and didn't land the way it wanted to, Lucas had to modify the script. Not as much as you would think, given the fact that it's Darth Jar Jar, but it was the minor modifications that had to be made. And I really sincerely believe that because as a writer, I ran myself through the hypothetical of what if Darth Jar Jar was a thing I was planning for 3 movies, right? And my goal was to make him an inverse mirror of Yoda. We would have found Yoda annoying if we had seen him as the crazy swamp hermit for more than about 10 minutes. We would have hated him, but he was funny for the short time he was there, and then he was revealed as a Jedi Master. If Darth Jar Jar was supposed to be a dark mirror to that, you can't just reveal the Lord of the Sith in the first episode. You can't. I mean, Palpatine was there, an obvious freaking smokescreen misdirect for people who paid attention to the original trilogy. But as a kid, I hadn't paid attention. I thought the Emperor was not Emperor Palpatine. I thought he was the Emperor. Didn't know he even had a name. So I didn't see Palpatine turning on anybody. But people who'd seen the original trilogy would have. Their focus would have been on Sheev. I always forget his first name too. Anyway, their focus would have been on Sheev. So of course, they're going to not think that Jar Jar is a freaking Sith Lord. It's a perfect misdirect. This silly guy who's oddly capable seems getting himself in positions of power. And you can see how the Force, because there is no such thing as coincidence in the Star Wars universe, the Force is guiding him into positions of power where he can help to elevate Sheev throughout the freaking thing. Whether Darth Jar Jar was the apprentice before Anakin, or if Darth Jar Jar was the master and Sidious was, in fact, the apprentice, it didn't matter. If you were going to set it up for 3 movies, you had to make Jar Jar lovable. You had to make him cute and adorable, make people love him, so his inevitable betrayal would land that much harder. Especially when he ends up dying at the end. Because then there's catharsis for the audience in the fact that this guy who made you love him, who looked like an idiot, moron, goofy mascot character, was secretly evil the whole frickin' time. Big old plot twist, big old thing that moves you hot. Similar to the whole I am your father thing from Darth Vader, because Lucas loves his plot twists. He so does. Even when he telegraphs them in advance, Lucas loves a good plot twist. Because every writer knows that if you do a plot twist just right, there's nothing like it. And it changes the entire story the next time you see it. In fact, there is one that I have only ever told, 2 people, maybe 2. But there is an existing plot twist inside of the Ziegfried Saga that's been telegraphed from the very beginning. Very obviously telegraphed to people who know all the details, but really subtle to people who don't. And when it finally is revealed in story, I am so looking forward to when people discover it. Because it is a puzzle hidden in plain sight. And it won't make perfect sense until the very end of the series. Even if you figure it out, you will still have questions until the very end of the series. And it is set up that way on purpose. Because all of the Ziegfried Saga is, again, about redemption. It is about accepting the past, learning from it, and growing from it. Some people are better at that than others, and some people take the concept way too far. But there's always going to be somebody who's trying their best. And their best, because they're not perfect, it's not always going to be enough. So you can sit here all you want and go, oh, that's what's going on here. It's still not going to be enough. There are still going to be disasters you can't change. Tragedies you can't control. Things about your life you can never live down. And it's about accepting those things. Fixing what you can, learning what you can, and making your own decisions with your life instead of allowing past tragedy to define you. So in all of this, that's the ongoing thing, is identity, which is a whole separate conversation for the next podcast, I imagine. But it's about identity and about redemption. And so even in that way, I'm glad I was able to bring it back around. But yeah, that's the thing. There's a plot twist in theme within the Ziegfried Saga, hiding in plain sight. And I'm looking forward to the first person who discovers it without me telling them. Because, again, I know who I've told, and I've sworn them to secrecy, and I'm not going to tell who they are. But I know who I've told, and I have sat on this. I have every intention of continuing to sit on this and waiting to see who guesses it. And since none of y'all leave comments, you're going to have to actually start vocalizing it. Because the first person to figure it out without me telling them, they're going to get a special surprise. They're going to get a special gift just from me. I haven't decided what it is yet, but there will be a special surprise for the first person to figure it out without me telling them. And anybody who I have told, tell no one. I'll know if you told them. Anyway, I think I'm nearing the end of my walk, so I'm going to start wrapping this up. Again, don't let your passion for your craft interfere with anything. Don't let anybody try and interfere with that. Don't allow yourself to be defined by other people. Let your passion be a beacon through the night and guide you to your own voice and your own road. I'll see you guys next episode. Bye.